Few moments in WWE history generate the kind of electricity that can stop fans in their tracks and dominate the conversation for days. But Brock Lesnar's surprise return achieved exactly that. After months away from the spotlight, the Beast incarnate stormed back into the ring, targeting Bronson Reed in a way that immediately reignited his aura of unpredictability. This was not a planned confrontation or a hyped comeback with weeks of build. It was a sudden, disruptive arrival that reminded everyone in attendance and everyone watching around the world that Lesnar remains one of the most compelling figures in all of sports entertainment. Brock Lesnar's aura of fear and respect. For more than 2 decades, Lesnar has been synonymous with dominance. Whether in WWE rings, UFC octagons, or amateur wrestling mats, he has built a reputation on his ability to overwhelm opponents with a rare mix of athleticism, strength, and intensity. His career highlights read like a greatest hits list of professional wrestling itself. Victories over legends, headline matches at major events, and championship reigns that cemented him as one of the most legitimate threats in the business. When Lesnar re-emerges, it is never ordinary, it is seismic. This latest return continued that tradition, instantly altering the landscape of WWE storylines and shaking the confidence of every superstar in the locker room. Bronson Reed's rising journey. On the other side of this dramatic moment stood Bronson Reed, one of the fastest-growing stars in WWE's new generation. The Australian powerhouse had been winning matches convincingly, earning a reputation for his blend of brute force and surprising agility. Fans had begun to view him as a dark horse contender for main event status, with his signature tsunami splash turning heads and securing victories. Reed embodied momentum, a competitor climbing steadily up the ranks, building the kind of credibility that can push a wrestler into championship conversations. But sometimes the greatest test of a rising star is not a title match or a tournament. It is how they respond when fate, or in this case, Brock Lesnar, places a sudden obstacle in their path. A night that seemed routine. On the surface, the night appeared destined to follow the usual rhythm of weekly programming. Reed had been scheduled for a match that many expected him to win handily, further establishing his dominance over lower-card opponents. The crowd was loud, energized, and supportive, chanting Reed's name as he delivered one punishing move after another. Everything seemed to be unfolding according to plan, a continuation of Reed's steady climb. Fans settled in, anticipating the inevitable finish, not realizing that what they were about to witness would transform a predictable evening into one of the most unforgettable episodes of the year. The music that changed everything without warning, the opening notes of Brock Lesnar's entrance theme, filled the arena, and in an instant, the atmosphere shifted from celebratory to chaotic. The reaction was deafening as thousands of fans leapt to their feet, screaming in disbelief at the sight of the Beast emerging after months of silence. Unlike a hyped return announced weeks in advance, this was pure surprise. The sudden interruption elevated the moment into something larger than a wrestling segment. It became history unfolding live. Reed, mid-celebration, froze in the ring as the crowd's roar drowned everything else out. The confidence that had carried him moments earlier gave way to an awareness that he was now face-to-face with the most intimidating force in WWE, the stare that spoke volumes. Lesnar did not sprint to the ring or indulge in theatrics. Instead, he walked with a deliberate, methodical pace, his gaze fixed on Bronson Reed. It was the kind of presence only he could command, calm yet menacing, almost daring his opponent to make the first move. Reed attempted to mask his apprehension, gesturing and shouting toward the ramp, but his bravado could not conceal the tension. Fans could sense it. This was no staged entrance to tease a confrontation weeks down the line. Lesnar was here to act, and Reed was his chosen target. The collision of powerhouses. When the two finally clashed, the difference in aura was immediately evident. Reed charged with the urgency of a man trying to seize control, but Lesnar met him with an ease that underscored why he has long been viewed as a different breed of competitor. What followed was a storm of suplexes, each one delivered with brutal precision. The crowd's initial cheers for Lesnar's return evolved into gasps of awe as Reed was thrown repeatedly across the ring. Every impact echoed through the arena, emphasizing both Reed's resilience and Lesnar's overwhelming control. It was a spectacle that blurred the line between wrestling as performance and wrestling as raw physical domination. The ROF 5. That sealed the moment. After a series of punishing suplexes, Lesnar decided to close with his signature finishing move, the ROF 5. The sight of the 330-pound Reed lifted effortlessly onto Lesnar's shoulders stunned the audience, highlighting the beast's extraordinary strength. The move was executed with thunderous finality, Reed crashing to the mat as the entire ring shook beneath the impact. For fans, it was both thrilling and unsettling, a visual reminder of Lesnar's unmatched physicality. For Reed, it was the kind of moment that could define his career, not through victory, but through survival of a trial by fire. A silent arena. One of the most telling aspects of the segment was the crowd's shifting energy. At first, the audience roared with excitement at Lesnar's return. But as the assault continued and Reed struggled to recover, a hush fell over the arena. Gasps and murmurs replaced cheers, the silence amplifying the intensity of what was unfolding. It was not the reaction of a typical scripted beatdown. Instead, it was the uneasy recognition that something monumental was happening, something that transcended the usual rhythm of weekly shows. Lesnar was not just making a return, he was reasserting his dominance in the most emphatic way possible. A creative turning point. Beyond the individuals involved, Lesnar's return suggests a potential creative shift for WWE. The company has always thrived on unpredictability, but the tone of this segment felt particularly raw, intense, and visceral. Rather than relying on lengthy promos or slow-burn setups, the moment cut directly to action, shocking fans with immediacy. It recalled earlier eras of wrestling when chaos could erupt at any time, and when the most memorable moments were those that caught fans completely off guard. For WWE, this could signal a renewed emphasis on surprise and intensity, qualities that have long made wrestling compelling. Possible directions ahead. What comes next remains the subject of heated debate among fans and analysts. Some believe Lesnar's attack on Reed sets up a direct rivalry, giving the younger star a chance to prove himself against one of the most intimidating figures in the industry. Others see it as a stepping stone toward bigger battles, with Lesnar perhaps reigniting rivalries with Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins. Still others suggest that his target list could expand to include a range of new generation talent, systematically reminding the roster of his dominance. Whatever the direction, the unpredictability is part of the appeal. Fans cannot know what Lesnar will do next, and that mystery keeps them invested. A legacy of unpredictability. Ultimately, Brock Lesnar's return underscored why he remains such a singular figure in professional wrestling. Few superstars can vanish for months and still command this level of attention upon reappearing. Fewer still can deliver a single segment that changes the tone of an entire company's programming. By targeting Bronson Reed, Lesnar reminded the world that he does not need a championship or a long build-up to make an impact. His presence alone is enough to reshape narratives and remind everyone why he is still viewed as the ultimate predator in WWE. Conclusion. A night that will be remembered. The night Lesnar returned will be remembered not just for the suplexes or the F5, but for the atmosphere it created. A blend of shock, excitement, and unease that only a handful of moments in wrestling history have achieved. For Bronson Reed, it was a painful but potentially transformative experience, one that could shape his trajectory in profound ways. For WWE as a whole, it was a statement that unpredictability remains its greatest strength, and that the Beast Incarnate still embodies the chaos that makes wrestling unmissable. The story is only beginning, but one truth is already clear. When Brock Lesnar returns, the entire industry takes notice.